I'm going to start this video out by one, saying hello to all of our new friends from the reveal video. Again, huge thank you to Blizzard for the opportunity to do that. That was so much fun. And two, promising myself right now at the beginning of this recording and all of you watching the edited version that I'm not going to ramble and I'm not going to talk about a card too long. But that being said, the purpose of this video is basically to cover every single thing that we've learned about spells so far. I will not be including the stuff that I talked about in the video that I revealed because I feel like it's repetitive, and I'll just go ahead and link it right now. So if you'd like to watch it and you haven't watched it yet, I have everything bookmarked so you can get to places very easily and very efficiently. So you can check that out. And aside from that, we're gonna go talk about literally everything else. Let's go. Alrighty, we're starting with our patch notes. And in our patch notes, we have a new mechanic. Spells are coming to the tavern. Whoa, crazy. This is brand new information right in this moment. But yeah, we have spells coming to the tavern. And the look of the spell has the tavern tier on the top and then the gold that it costs under. So you pay the gold to buy the spell and then you can use the spell at your leisure. We have 42 different spells coming to the Battlegrounds. Each refresh will include a spell on your tier or below. Patch notes include this. I feel like this is straightforward, but spells cannot be tripled and are used once you play them. The Battlegrounds and the Hearthstone team in general is really fantastic about transparent communication, and Mitchell, our lead game designer for Hearthstone, has tweeted a few things here that I want to add right in this moment so that they can have a little context. But it says, whenever a spell is bought or generated, it immediately returns to the pool. So everything is more closely linked to an appearance rate than an actual here's the number. Also included were the number of spells on each tavern tier. So the tier 1 spells, there's 5 of them. Tier 2, there's 7. Tier 3, there's 9. Tier 4, 11. Tier 5, 7. And Tier 6, 5. Tier 4s are the most common and Tiers 1 and 6 are the least common. So we're thinking of this more as an appearance rate. We're moving on to the spells that we got in our patch notes. On Tier 1 with 2 gold cost, it's recruit a trainee, get a random tier 1 minion. Right away my mind went to when you're on tier 2 on turn 3, 5 gold. That's a perfect economy turn where you basically get an extra minion for 2 gold. So playing a standard curve where you buy a minion on turn 1, turn 2 you level, turn 3 you have a fantastic situation here if recruit a trainee is in your shop. On tier 3 for 3 gold we have a staff of enrichment, which minions in the tavern have +2/+2 in this game. So it's a persistent buff, it's nice, does not require any board space, is not an aura, and it's in this game, so I'm assuming that the buff persists, just like a Felemental buff, or even like a Barnstormer buff, but that's specific to elementals. This is all the minions in the tavern. Also, minions in the tavern means that anything you discover does not benefit from this buff. On tier 5 for 4 gold, we have Jaws of Fate, spin the wheel of Yogg-Saron. Yogg Wheel has been here for buddies, for quests, for anomalies. It's a really, really fun mechanic. I love the Yogg Wheel. I'm really excited to see it also continue into spells. Creates a level of RNG and absurdity. We got some minions in our patch notes. We have 32 new minions, 5 returning minions, which I'm really curious about, and 33 are leaving to create the room for these new minions. Also, this needs to be said. Quick shout out to Slither Spear, Lord of Gains. I saw the card before we knew what spells were, and I was like, this card is terrible. But now feels a lot better. We don't have to worry about specifically spellcraft or gems or coins or discovers. Now we have a plethora of spells for Slither Spear to do some crazy things with. Okay, so the minions that we saw, we have our tier 2 Landlubber, the cutest. The cutest. This is an elemental pirate 3/4, and the minion itself makes the tavern offer an extra tavern spell each refresh. This minion reminds me of Seaborn Summoner, even though there is a spell that's more closely related to Seaborn Summoner. It reminds me of it because it's something that provides an extra of something that you may be looking for. So it could be really useful, and it's not a terrible stat line to have, especially with the minion types that it is. It's elemental pirate, so as long as we're still seeing a Rip Snarl in, you don't really have to worry about not getting too much value from this. And pirates and elementals also happen to be pretty easy to buff. On tier 5 we have a Rodeo Performer, which is a neutral. It's a 3/4 Battlecry, discover a tavern spell. So of course, the first place that my degen mind goes to is Lilac or like just our battle cry re-triggers, and just having Bran and getting so much value with this rodeo performer, especially because you get to discover. So you get to look at some and decide which ones you want. It's so good. It is a tier 5, so it is, you know, higher up there, harder to find, but immediately we go to degen places of like playing this with Bran. Is there Lilac? Is the Disco Shuffler still going to be around? Is Young Murk-Eye still going to work the way it works? All of these questions come to mind immediately. I see Battle Cry, and that's where I go. We also had an Undead minion in the patch notes, but I actually want to talk about that specifically when we get to Portia's Reveal section, because I think that this is such an important minion for Undead that, and really sets, it feels like a whole synergy change for Undead. So we're going to talk about that all at once. Last but not least, we have a track refresh with brand new cosmetics that you can check out in the patch notes. This also means that there's an MMR reset. So if you are someone that likes to grind MMR as high as you can possibly go, keep in mind, December 5th is the reset. So you're gonna go back to 0 on the 5th. Let's talk about these reveals on the reveal schedule itself. The first one was from Hearthstone, and it was 3 new heroes. We have Dr. Holiday with the hero power Blessing of the Nine Frogs, which is 1 gold and you get a random tavern spell. This is not a discover, you get a random one, so it's a little bit more RNG-esque than the Discover with the Rodeo Performer, which we just talked about. These tavern spells create a good amount of like economy or, you know, buffs. Overall, every tavern spell we've seen has been pretty useful. So you could theoretically play like a Rafam curve or a 1-cost hero power curve where you stay down on 1 for a little bit longer, and then you have several turns in a row where you just level and push your hero power. Level, push your hero power. I love some RNG. I think this will be really fun. In general, this is a generalized note for anyone, especially newer to the game. Whenever it says a random, like you get something random, usually it is tavern tier or below. Like usually it's locked to your tavern tier or below. So any of you that are thinking like, Dr. Holiday, I can get like the best spell on turn 1, depending on what you think of the best spell, probably not. You're gonna get like a tier 1 spell, and then on tier 2, 1 or 2 or below, tier 3, 3 or below, and so on and so forth. I could be wrong here, but that's generally how the get a random mechanic in this game works. Snake Eyes is another new hero with the hero power of Lucky Roll, and this is a 1 gold hero power where you roll a 6-sided die, gain that much gold, and it cannot be used again for that many turns. So this hero power, I would urge you to use early in your turn, like before you spend your gold. Because for instance, let's say you roll a 1 and then you have 1 extra gold that turn, but you're like, darn it, I already played my whole turn, and now what am I gonna do with this 1 gold? I can roll and that's it. Or like, I have a free roll, so I don't even wanna waste my free roll right now, so I'm just gonna leave it. Feels kind of bad. So this is one I would definitely urge you to push the button first, see what happens, and go from there. This is a hero power that I believe is going to be very necessary to be an adaptive player, in the way that whatever happens here, you have to work with that situation. On turn 1, you push the button, you get, which I mean, I would, because worst case you get a 1 and you just get your gold back. But turn 1, you push the button and you could randomly end up with 6 gold on turn 1, and then you have to wait 6 more turns to push that button again. So you have to be very prepared to spend that gold. I personally am very excited for this hero. I think it's going to be really fun. And like I said, definitely going to require some adaptive gameplay. Last but not least, for our new heroes, we have Tathalon Bloodwatcher. This hero power is Reliquary Research. It's a passive. Every 3rd tavern spell you buy costs 0. So I went on a deep dive. Tathalon reminded me of Kael'thas, especially in the way that the hero power is every 3rd blank do blank. So I was like, are they related? Is this lore? So I went and I looked it up, and I could not find anything except for the fact that they are both blood elves. So if you know more about the story of this, if this actually is a storyline that exists between Kael'thas and Tathalon, please let me know. I really deep dived this. I really wanted to know. Anyways, sorry. So every 3rd tavern spell you buy costs 0. This could be really beneficial for those higher priced tavern spells. You know, you have a 4 gold spell in your shop, like the Wheel of Yogg-Saron. It costs 0 now because you were smart about your gold spending. I don't think that any of these heroes are absolutely outlier broken by any means, but I do think that they're all going to create a little fun level of either RNG or potentially some nice spell interaction, which I would love, considering spells are brand new. So next up, right before my reveal yesterday, was Shadybunny's reveal. Shadybunny revealed a bunch of spells. These are a whole lot of spells, so I'm going to try to rapid fire this one. On tier 1, we have 1 gold fortify, give a minion +3 health and taunt. Reminds me of the spellcraft from the tier 2 minion with the taunt and the health, but this isn't a spellcraft, so it persists. On tier 1, we have a 2 gold enchanted lasso. Steal a random minion from the tavern. This is a good econ, just like recruiter trainee. So if you find this and you get to turn 3, 5 gold, fantastic econ. Also, just anything where you don't have to pay 3 gold for a minion, I'll take it. On tier 2, 2 gold, we have Chef's Choice. Choose a minion, get a different minion of the same type. So that's where I was like, there's another spell that's more similar to Seaborn Summoner's Spellcraft. It's Chef's Choice. Another econ, another 2-cost minion. The only thing is you get a different minion of the same type, so you don't get to discover, you just receive it. But it costs 2 gold, so hey, cheap minions. Tier 2, 3 gold, Hasty Excavation. You gain 1 gold, and this costs health to buy instead of gold. So this is literally exactly like Fellhound, depending on how you play Fellhound. But you spend this 3 gold to buy this spell, just like you do for Fellhound. And then sometimes you just sell it back for the extra gold. But in this situation, it's better because if for some reason you don't have an open board spot to be able to cycle that Fellhound back and sell it back, now instead you get to just have a gold that may close out your turn to be able to buy one last minion, or just have enough, or potentially use it the next turn because you're like, this turn, this is not a very smart investment. Speaking of investment, that was a fantastic accidental segue. On tier 2, 1 gold, we have Careful Investment, where you gain 2 gold next turn. So it's just like our pirate on tier 1, whose name I'm forgetting, Busker? South Sea Busker? Where you gain a gold next turn. It's the golden version of this pirate, where you gain 2 gold next turn. This is requiring you to think a few turns ahead. So you're like, okay, next turn, will this be useful? No? Okay, I'm gonna use this later. On tier 2, we have a 3 gold Strike Oil, increase your maximum gold by 1. This one really intrigued me. This is fantastic, and it does persist. I'm going to include a tweet by Celestial on here. Just a little clarification. It's basically like a Cordotron without being tied down by a minion, right? Because you are increasing your maximum gold by 1, so it's not even just waiting until 10 to go to 11 gold. It's just consistently having that 1 extra gold from that turn onwards. I mean, this definitely does feel a lot better if you can just like find a bunch of, you can strike a bunch of oil and just increase your gold over and over and over again. On tier 1 for 1 gold, we have Gain a Gold. We have the Tavern Coin. So you can buy a coin now. It's like take a penny, leave a penny, but like not exactly. Buy a gold for later. Investment. Tier 2, 2 gold, we have Leaf Through the Pages. Your next 3 refreshes cost 0. This is like the Dark Moon prize, where you get to have 3 refreshes for 0. I love using this for like Giga Greed when you power level, because you can definitely find, after taking a pretty large hit from greeting, you can definitely find the minions that you're looking for. Well, hopefully, unless you get 3 really bad rolls, because you don't have to spend money on rolling. On tier 2 for 1 gold, we have Overconfidence. If you win the next combat, gain 3 gold. If you tie, gain 1. So it's basically like Bear Off, except for it's about you. You have to be aware of your hand space here for sure, right? Because if you're gaining 3 gold, make sure that you have the hand space for that 3 gold. And this is about when you feel like you are going to win the combat. So like awareness of what you are doing and what your opponents are doing is incredibly important here. Lantern Light on tier 2, 2 gold. Give a minion stats equal to your tavern tier. So it's like Rakanishu's hero power, but more expensive. So it's like buying a Rakanishu costume and then using the hero power. When I read these, especially these 2 in a row, I had a little realization, right? So we got our, this is a tangent. Gosh darn it, I'm trying not to do this. But we got our most recent cosmetics. I think they're the most recent ones, where the heroes were dressed up as other heroes. Like there was the Mukla Bigglesworth, which is adorable, and I love it. And then I had this thought like years ago about hero mashups, like playing a hero with also having another hero, and their hero powers combine and become one. And this is basically that. We have some spells that are just like a hero power. So you're Rakanishu, but you're also Jandis. I don't know. I can't even say that was really valuable to this video. I just wanted to share that with all of you. On tier 1 gold, we have Tavern Dish Banana, which give a minion +2/+2. So you're basically paying for Big Banana from Mukla, but in a much nicer presentation. The bananas in a dish. On tier 1 for 1 gold, we have them apples. Lots of food here. Give minions in the tavern +1/+3. So this is not for the rest of the game. It does not say that. It does not say in the game, for the rest of the game, nothing like that. So this is specific to the minions in your tavern, so you have to use this wisely. You're like, hey, this is a nice shop. I'm gonna buy a lot of these. Let's give them apples. Also on tier 1 for 1 gold, we had Pointy Arrow, give a minion +4 attack. And this could be helpful for a tech turn if you want to. Good early game, obviously it's on tier 1, so you could find it early game. But you know, just some extra attack. Get a minion to die and stuff. Now we have Portia's Reveal. This was Undead, and as I mentioned before, Undead is almost feeling like an entire landscape change, like an entire synergy change because of this one new mechanic of being able to kill the undead during recruit phase. This is so massive, and all of these minions that were revealed by Portia earlier, we'll talk about why. But first we start with the minion from the patch notes. This is our tier 4 disguised Grave Robber. It's a neutral, but it is undead specific. It's a 4/3 with the battle cry of destroy a friendly undead to gain 3 gold. So not only do you get the effect of the undead that you destroy, right? Because a lot of these undeads have death rattles that do things now. You also get extra gold with the Grave Robber, which is so sick. But let's get to these minions now. On tier 1, we have Harmless Bonehead, which is an undead 0/2 of death rattle, summon 2 1/1 skeletons. I want to make a note that the golden version summons 2 2/2s instead of 4 1/1s. This is good for you know, board space overall. I'm gonna paint a picture for you because death rattles work with Rivendare, right? Because they trigger an extra time. Rivendare now has things to do during recruit phase. So you could play Grave Robber and destroy a Bonehead with Rivendare, and if you have the board space, you get some triple skeletons, which is so sick. Really, really stoked for this, and stoked that Rivendare has a whole new capability now. You can play Rivendare and get value during recruit phase. I literally don't think that's ever happened before because it's always during combat, because death rattles trigger during combat. Now they can trigger during recruit. It's just blowing my mind. I'm saying the same thing over and over again. I'm really sorry. On tier 2, we have the Grave Gobbler. This is an undead 3/4. At the start of your turn, destroy the undead to the left of this to gain +4/+4. I did also want to make a note because in my mind, I think of something that has an end of turn effect like Young Murkai, like duo, that go from left minion to adjacent minions when they golden. This one is still the left minion to gain +8/+8. So it's not adjacent minions when it's golden. Also, this is a start of turn effect, so a little bit different. But the stat line that this can gain as a tier 2 has some insane spike ability, and it does require a little bit of undead synergy, so you do have to have an undead minion in order to make this work. But assuming that you do, that's some stats. Also to be noted that you have to be very careful about your positioning here because the Grave Gobbler itself is undead. So let's pretend that you are someone that played a Grave Gobbler next to a Grave Gobbler. Well, it's like Pac-Man. would not lead to eventual triple because one would be destroyed. On tier 5, we have Moreau's Steward of Death. This is an undead 6/2 reborn. With the death rattle, give your undead +6 health. Undead has not had a lot of really great health gain so far, aside from, you know, getting to the end of the comp with the Sister Death Whisper, or playing like Eternal Night comp and consistently having these Eternal Nights grow, but overall, not a lot of health to be had. So, Moreau's being here, even if you don't necessarily destroy this minion, but just using it during combat, it's pretty interesting. And the fact that it has Reborn makes it that much better with a very low health total itself. So the value you're probably going to get here is massive. On tier 4, we have Steadfast Spirit. This is an undead 3/1 Reborn with a death rattle of give your minions +1/+1. So this kind of reminds me of Spawn of N'Zoth because it is your minions. It's not your friendly undead. So all of your minions behind the Steadfast Spirit get +1/+1. If you choose to destroy it during recruit phase, you get that buff, you know, forever on your minions. But if you use it during your combats, in the end, it's like Spawn of N'Zoth. Kind of. Especially because it's reborn, so you get +2/+2 overall. On tier 6, we have our Archlich Kel'Thuzad. This is such a minion. This is a minion. Yeah, this is an undead 7/4. At the end of your turn, destroy the undead to the left and resummon it. So, hypothetically, if you're playing a minion that has any kind of effect to the left of it, it has to be an undead, right? But any kind of effect, whether it's the Morose to give more health, or Boneheads for some skeletons, assuming you have room. And then you have the combo with Drukhari, where it destroys, resummons, destroys, resummons. This could be so good. I'm really, really excited for Undead. Oh, wait, there's one more. Hold on. Oh, also the golden is adjacent here. So the regular version is left and the golden is adjacent. On tier 3, we have Mummifier, which is an undead 3/2 with the death rattle. If you give a different friendly undead reborn. And different is important because that could theoretically go infinite without the word different. So you can't have a Mummifier that works on a Mummifier that works on a Mummifier. That would be just terrible. There's so many changes between spells and now Undead. Massive, massive landscape change for Undead. I think that this is going to be such a fun, interesting meta. Last but not least on our reveals, we had a reveal today from TcK Battlegrounds for dragons. There's a couple more minions mixed in there, but this was mostly a dragon reveal. On tier 1, we had our Emerald Proto-Whelp Dragon. It's a 0/4. At the end of your turn, gain +1 attack. I don't exactly know what dragons are rotating out, but this has to be replacing Dozy Whelp, I assume. It's very similar in a stat line and kind of similar in an effect. It is an end of turn effect though, so that could be pretty interesting with Drukhari. Tier 4, we have Outback Smolderer. This is a dragon 4/3. At the end of your turn, get a 2/1 Smolder Wing with the battle cry. Give a dragon +5 attack. So, I'm gonna tell you all, if you're not a regular on my Twitch channel, so you have these opportunities to trigger battle cries again, right? And we have our, I don't actually know the name of this minion now that I'm thinking about it, because I call it a Smolderwing Printer. A Smolderwing Printer because Smolderwing didn't rhyme with printer. Neither does Smolderwing, but it both starts with P, so that makes it feel better. But I would call it a Smolderwing Printer because you'd basically just try to generate triples of these 2/1s, right? That's the whole point of playing it for most people, or maybe you play it just as an incremental stat buff because you're afraid you're going to perish, so you do that instead. But the golden version of this gets 2 Smolderwings, so I can't call it a Smolderwing. You don't need the printer anymore, the Smolderwing Printer of the dragon that provides Smolderwings on either side of a Rylak or either side of a young Murkai. Now you can just have this Outback Smolderer and it'll give you Smolder Wings. I had to work really hard to remove the P at the beginning of Smolder Wings. On tier 2, we have a Bronze Sand Spewer. This is a dragon 2/2 with Divine Shield. If you have 7 minions at the end of your turn, gain +2/+1. This is a tier 2 that encourages a wider board. I think that it might be a little bit easier to build a wider board just based on the spells we've seen so far. I don't know how I feel about this yet. I do fear that I am not going to play this a lot because early game is meant to level. Give Sway gold, Sway levels, and then plays the game on tier 4 onwards. So I'm curious how much play I'm going to have with this dragon. That being said, I do think that it has some value to it, and the fact that it gains +2/+1 end of turn. This is another end of turn effect that can be repeated with Drukhari. I don't know. I think it's good. This whole not tangenting thing is not working very well for me. Tier 5 Ignition Specialist. This is a dragon 2/2. At the end of your turn, get 2 random tavern spells. End of turn. So many end of turns. I love this dragon end of turn situation. And this is Econ. We have some spells. We have Econ. We talked a little bit about the get random situation from earlier when we talked about heroes. I'm assuming, again, this is Tavern tier or below. I'm almost positive this is Tavern tier or below. I'd be very surprised if it was not. You're already on tier 5. Maybe you triple into it on tier 4, so you can't necessarily find tier 5 spells in this situation, but that's some insane economy. Depending on the tavern spells that you receive, this could be really, really beneficial. It is a kind of a liability on your board unless you buff it, but I'm seeing a lot of minions here that I would want to run as like a standalone situation, so that maybe a menagerie piece. On tier 3, this is a beast, we have the Mystic Spore Bat. So 4/1, death rattle of get a random tavern spell. So of course, being the degen that I am, I'm like, macaw or chicken. Let's re-trigger this death rattle as much as possible. I love the concept of getting these random tavern spells. I think it's really fantastic and could be really beneficial. RNG, but RNG in a fancy way. Last but not least, on tier 4, we have Bazaar Dealer. It's a demon 3/6. This is also spell synergetic. 1 tavern spell each turn costs health instead of gold to buy. So we have our kind of like ouchie demons, right? So I call this ouchie demon doctor, Soul Rewinder. Cheesy, which is Malchazar. I don't actually remember. I think I called it Malchazar forever, and then it was just cheesy. But Malchazar has some synergy with the Soul Rewinder, and now we have another piece to this puzzle. We have Bazaar Dealer to get the same kind of ouchie demon synergy. So if you have the tier 5 that buffs your demons whenever you take damage, and you have the Bazaar Dealer, you have Malchazar, you have Soul Rewinder, it sounds like a perfect board to me. And even if you're not playing a full demon board, but you do have the Bazaar Dealer and you don't have a Soul Rewinder, you can still do that. Like, you can still use the Bazaar Dealer. Health is a resource. I believe at this point, outside of my reveal, we have covered everything that we know so far. This is all of the day 1, day 2 reveal recap situation. We have 2 more days of reveals, as I mentioned, and then we have Monday for our early access, as well as some patch notes. Tuesday, patch goes live. I do plan on making 1 more video like this to discuss the rest of the reveals. We'll talk about the patch notes, but Monday is a very exciting day, so I hope to see you on my Twitch channel on Monday to play some new things. Of course, we have to find all the memes we possibly can, so that's goal number 1. But I will see you all there. Let me know what you think about all of the new stuff so far in the comments. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. I am actually so excited. I was concerned about what was going to come after Anomalies and how engaging it would be, considering how engaging Anomalies is, and I could not be happier so far with what we've seen. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.